Duan Jiajia wore books and became the control group for the female lead of the group's favorite literature. The female protagonist's family is happy, and her original mother passed away due to difficult childbirth. The female protagonist grew up healthy, and her original body was worn to death by her stepmother. The female protagonist's father got rich with his first bucket of gold, and Genshin and Genshin's father got married together. The first bucket of gold for the protagonist's father was also dug from her original family. Duan Jiajia kicked away the tattered plot and cursed, "Go to your control group, whoever likes to be the one." Ren, the beloved female lead of the group, was enjoying herself. Duan Jiajia shook off her writing paper to earn money, but she still turned her head and pulled her biological father, who was also in the control group, to cheer up. "Do Jimu, fight for excellence, father and daughter want to be the big and small pigs in the 90s trend. He is strong, let him be strong, the gentle breeze brushes over the hills." Chapter 1. Wearing Books 90. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. In 1990, cicadas kept ringing, and the scorching sun seemed to scorch the ground. Thin-soled shoes feel hot when stepped on the ground. Duan Jiajia didn't care about these things. He pressed his stomach hard with both hands and walked towards the outside with his body hooked up, 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. A large old men's T-shirt hung on his body, with sweat stains on his back. His long, short, and dog-like hair was wet with sweat and pressed against his face. Unfortunately, the face that was exposed was so pale that it seemed as if it would suffocate at any moment on the ground. Duan Jiajia was shedding tears big and big. Not only because of the pain in my stomach, but also because of my own confused reading. She just read a novel before going to bed, and as soon as she opened her eyes, she looked at the furniture around her that was obviously in the style of the 1980s and had not yet regained her senses. First, a memory surged into her mind, and then a cramp in her stomach. The scorching sun was shining on Duan Jiajia's body, but she still felt cold all over her body. Cold sweat kept coming out, and without paying attention, it flowed into her eyes, causing her eyes to ache. If she remembers correctly, the control group of the original female lead should have died from this food poisoning. After the original body died, the father of the original body was in a daze and had a car accident while driving, and died on the spot. The house at home was sold by the stepmother to the female lead family. When the female protagonist's father renovated the house, he dug out a box of small yellow croakers and a small bag of gemstones, which also served as the first bucket of gold for the female protagonist's family to make a fortune. As the female lead, she must be kind. So the last time the control group of the original body appeared in the novel was when the female protagonist, after digging out the treasure, suggested by the female protagonist that her parents spend hundreds of yuan to repair better-sized tombstones for the original body and its father. Duan Jiajia looked at the sun above her head, her eyes beginning to blur, and she suddenly recognized 2 suns. She wanted to call someone, but she was so uncomfortable that she couldn't make a sound, and there was no phone at home for her to call for emergency treatment. Unfortunately, it is now after 3 p.m., and most of the people living in this area are factory workers who have gone to work. Duan Jiajia stumbled and finally stumbled to the alley, unable to hold on, and fell to the ground. Oh my! Isn't this the daughter of the old Duan family? What's wrong with this? On the cold road, there was a person lying there, which startled Wang Qiulian, who had been on temporary leave to go home. After seeing who it was, Wang Qiulian quickly helped the person up. After seeing Duan Jiajia's appearance clearly, she was also frightened and sweated profusely. Don't be dying. This whole body feels icy cold. Fortunately, Wang Qiulian had a loud voice and quickly called for people nearby. A group of people rushed Duan Jiajia, who had fainted, to the town hospital 2 blocks away. Duan Jiajia's last bit of consciousness also disappeared while lying on the cart pulling people. Knowing that he had been saved, Duan Jiajia breathed a sigh of relief and fell into darkness. When he woke up again, Duan Jiajia's nose was filled with the smell of hospital disinfectant. Next to the bed against the wall is a light green wall skirt, with characters and graffiti written by an unknown patient on the wall. Recalling the previous events, Duan Jiajia only felt relieved. She is afraid to death. You should know that in the novel, the original body died today. She still doesn't know why she wore books. If she can't put them back on and change her original fate, she will really die. Wang Qilian on the side saw Duan Jiajia wake up and breathed a sigh of relief. Before she could even express her concern, she began to complain, "Your mother doesn't know where she went, and your father hasn't come back even after a long trip. If something happens to you, I don't even know how to explain it to your father." Wang Qilian and the Duan family live across the street. They all have old bungalows from decades ago, with several families in the same courtyard. They also know a little about the situation of the Duan family. Looking at Duan Jiajia's messy hair, I thought about how many people envied this child's previously shiny black braid, which ended up being cut like this by that unscrupulous stepmother. The good little girl now looks like a little wanderer. Are you feeling better? Wang Qilian sighed inwardly and then remembered to care about Duan Jiajia's situation. Is it still difficult or not? The doctor said you have food poisoning. How could you have food poisoning? What about your mother? Duan Jiajia's stomach is not uncomfortable now, but her body is still a bit weak. Recalling the memories of the original owner, Duan Jiajia's eyes flashed with anger. With her hand pricked with a needle, she grabbed Wang Qilian and said word by word, "Aunt Wang, I want to report to the police. Qin Fen wants to harm me." Wang Qilian was shocked by the original earthquake, but as Duan Jiajia said, he quickly walked towards the nearest public security bureau. Duan Jiajia looked at Wang Qilian's back and lay in the hospital bed, recalling the plot of the novel and her original memories. The novel is a group favorite, and the female protagonist Fubao, who also lives in a courtyard, was born into a group favorite. Her parents love her so much that her grandparents are extremely rare. From childhood to adulthood, it has also been popular in the yard. Not to mention the other children in the yard, the big rooster raised in the yard restrained its physiological instincts and stopped crowing after Fubao gave birth. Afraid of waking up Fubao to sleep. Correspondingly, the original body is the control group of Fubao. Not only are the original parents in the control group of Fubao, but also their biological fathers in the control group of Fubao's father. The original name is also Duan Jiajia. My biological father, Duan Shunan, was an abandoned baby. He was picked up by an old bachelor from the Hongshan Brigade and raised by his side until he was 10 years old. The old bachelor was old and not in good health, so he caught a bad cold in winter and couldn't carry it over. Correspondingly, Fubao Dad is the youngest son of the team captain, who has been lively and clever since childhood. After finishing high school, he became a scorer in the team, seemingly training for the next team captain. Fubao Dad looks very much in line with the aesthetic of this era, with a Chinese character face, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and upright facial features, giving him a dignified appearance. The control group also looks good, but due to not having enough snacks, they are as thin as a bamboo pole. Although drilling into the mountains, he has a natural white skin and a small white face with red lips and white teeth. When Fubao's father was chased by village flowers, educated youth, and members, Duan Shunan was despised for having a small white face, with only face and no family background, and no one was interested in him at all. Later on, Fubao's father, relying on his father as the captain, learned about the recruitment of workers in the city ahead of time and was admitted to a local machinery factory, becoming a worker. In the second year, a major problem was discovered in the factory to help reduce losses, so a house was allocated. I thought the two would part ways, but Duan Shunan accidentally saved his original mother who was almost bullied by thugs on his way to the city, and the two got to know each other. After getting married, he also took over his father.in.law's job in the transportation team. Duan Shunan and Fubao's father reunited in a large courtyard. Genshin and Fubao were born in the same year. They were overjoyed and talked about what to do with full moon wine, while Genshin was held by his biological father for a funeral. Fubao is favored by the whole family, but due to Duan Jiajia's work, he can only stay with his employer for a while and with his employer for a while. After the resumption of the college entrance examination, Fubao's father and his educated youth wife were admitted to a university in this city, and his mother came to the city to take care of Fubao. The most enviable child in the large and miscellaneous courtyards around Fubao was a pair of college student parents. And in the same year, Duan Jiajia, under the continuous persuasion of people around him, nodded and agreed to a blind date, finding a widow of similar age, Qin Fun. Duan Jiajia has no emotional attachment to Qin Fun, but he is very generous in his actions, hoping that Qin Fun can treat her original body better even for the sake of money. Can Duan Jiajia not know, wealth and silk move people's hearts? Duan Jiajia had no parents, and his father.In.Law and mother.In.Law passed away before his original mother was born. The reason why his mother had difficulty giving birth was also related to the successive deaths of her parents and excessive grief during pregnancy. Qin Fun had long been disdainful of the 3 melons and 2 dates given by Duan Jiajia, and instead focused on the house that was recorded under his original name. Chapter 2. Masked Stepmother. You are listening at novel full.audio. Duan Jiajia lay in bed, unsure of what to say about this unlucky father and daughter. Qin Fun didn't know that Fang Ben was writing the name of Duan Jiajia. In her opinion, to eliminate Duan Jiajia and find opportunities to eliminate Duan Jiajia in the future. It's not particularly strange for a long-distance driver to have an accident this year. In the later stage of the novel, Qin Fun found out from somewhere that the Fubao family had dug up a treasure under the house, and came to ask Fubao's father to return the treasure to her. At that time, Fubao Dad was already the richest man in the city. How could he be threatened by Qin Fun? When I was fighting with Qin Fun, I unexpectedly learned that Qin Fun had intentionally set up a table full of poison and killed Duan Jiajia. He also conspired with his adulterer to tamper in the car, causing Duan Jiajia to have a car accident. Because the car overturned directly down the mountain and exploded, leaving only a car frame, no one knew that Duan Jiajia's car accident was not only related to his mental confusion at the time, but also due to human factors. Duan Jiajia was still thinking about what to do next when suddenly a sound of high heels came from outside. In the quiet hospital, suddenly came a mournful cry. My daughter. You died so miserably. Qin Fun calculated the time and felt that she could almost go back. However, she heard people nearby talking about Duan Jiajia being taken to the hospital. Those few people vividly described Duan Jiajia's situation at that time, saying that if he had more air output and less air intake, he might not be able to survive. After receiving the news, Qin Fun excitedly walked towards the hospital while blaming the neighbors for causing trouble. What hospital does Duan Jiajia send a girl to? Let her have an extra amount of money for nothing. But when Qin Fun thought of what Lao Jia said about selling a house, she trembled with excitement. Duan Jiajia, that useless man, is always thinking about his deceased wife. When she married Duan Jiajia back then, although she was a widow, she only got married to the previous one for half a year and fell off the mountain to die. At that time, she was also like a flower and jade, thinking she could live a good life. Who knew that Duan Jiajia was just a silver-like pewter spearhead, and he didn't react at all when he looked at her. If it weren't for giving too much money, Qin Fun wouldn't be able to stay any longer. With excitement, Qin Fun looked at each ward one by one. Walking to the last ward, it was roughly certain that Duan Jiajia should be here. Qin Fun cried out loudly, and anyone who didn't know would think she was a poor mother. Qin Fun wiped her tearless eyes and cried out, My daughter. My poor daughter. Here. Duan Jiajia propped herself up with one hand and forced herself to sit up. She raised her eyebrows as she looked at Qin Fun running in. Is there anything I need to do? Duan Jiajia looked coldly at the woman and sneered, Mom. Qin Fen didn't expect that Duan Jiajia was still living well. His expression twisted for a moment, but he noticed that there were other people in the ward. He quickly forced out a smiling face and said, "Are you okay?" "It's great if you're okay." Qin Fen didn't take Duan Jiajia seriously. She watched Duan Jiajia grow up, and this is a face person who can be easily rubbed, without any temper. Besides, she did it secretly. Judging from Duan Jiajia's appearance, the things at home should not have been tidied up yet. Later, she will go back and pour out all the dishes, saying that Duan Jiajia did not cook the dishes well by herself. Thinking of this, Qin Fen couldn't help feeling a bit annoyed. After finally finding such a good opportunity, Duan Jiajia managed to escape. Next time, you need to wait for a while before you can start, otherwise you will be suspected. Qin Fen restrained her thoughts and looked like a kind mother, sitting on the side with her head down and wiping away her tears. "When you said I told you to cook more and stir-fry a few times. Fortunately, someone discovered it after leaving work early this time. If something really happened to you, how can I explain it to your father?" Qin Fen rubbed her eyes hard, causing her to burst into tears. She covered her chest in sadness and said, "I watched you grow up. Call me Mom, you're really scared to death. If something happens to you, isn't that cutting flesh from my heart?" After speaking, Qin Fen pounded her chest a few times. Several other patients in the ward looked sideways one after another. They also find it strange. "Just now, I heard the girl lying in the hospital bed say something like reporting to the police. The damn person who came over now looks fine too." At the moment, an old man next door said, "What's wrong with you, little girl? Your mother is crying like this, but I won't advise her. Children nowadays are not as simple and filial as those of our time." The old man shook his head and looked at Duan Jiajia in disappointment, as if Duan Jiajia had made a big mistake. Duan Jiajia was originally leaning against the bedside to watch a play, but suddenly he was lectured. She didn't directly say anything about reporting to the police, but instead saw Qin Fen singing, reciting, and hitting posture in her eyes. She smiled and said, "My mother. My biological mother passed away during childbirth when she gave birth to me. This is my stepmother in front of me." This choked the old man just now. They say there aren't many good stepmothers in the world. Several people in the ward suddenly had their own thoughts, and those who were originally trying to preach to Duan Jiajia with the old man also calmed down. "I'm sick myself, why bother with family matters?" Qin Fen couldn't cry anymore on that end. If she can no longer discover the strangeness of Duan Jiajia, she will have lived for so many years in vain. But now it's not easy to ask directly in front of so many people. Qin Fen just chuckled and said, "Jiajia, what do you mean by that? Didn't you say you treated me like a biological mother before?" Duan Jiajia caught a glimpse of Wang Qiuyan's figure flashing by on the corridor outside the window, followed by two men dressed in olive green. She immediately felt relieved. She is not worried about anything else, just afraid that Wang Qiuyan may not have explained the matter clearly, and the Public Security Bureau will handle it as if it were a child getting angry. Tiger poison doesn't eat seeds. If my mother were still here, she wouldn't have given me undercooked mushrooms, green beans, and sprouted potatoes. Thinking about it now, Duan Jiajia admired Qin Fen's idea. Potatoes sprouted, unripe mushrooms, and green beans were eaten together. Fortunately, when she first wore them over, she reacted promptly and gave herself emetic stimulation. Otherwise, I'm afraid if I can't walk to the alley, there won't be anyone left. Maybe the original body is so missing, otherwise she wouldn't have worn it. Qin Fen's scalp tingled as she listened, and she couldn't sit still. Subconsciously wanting to leave, he even raised his voice and retorted, "What are you saying? I can't even understand." Duan Jiajia slightly changed her posture to make herself sit more comfortable. She said, "It's okay if you don't understand, as long as the public security and hospital can understand. I have food poisoning and almost died. It's not just a small cold and fever, you wouldn't think the doctor can't diagnose what food poisoning caused me, right? The dishes at home are still on the table. That's all evidence. Chapter 3. Female lead Fubao. You are listening at novel full.audio. Qin Fan only felt that the sky and earth were spinning. When did Duan Jiajia become so powerful? She realized she couldn't stay any longer, at least she had to go back and dispose of the leftovers at home first. Previously, I thought that Duan Jiajia would definitely die, but I was afraid that if I didn't perform well, I would be suspected, so I didn't have time to go back and dispose of those leftovers. Qin Fan turned around and was about to leave, but as soon as she turned around, she saw Wang Qilian standing at the door, with 2 police officers with big caps behind her. Duan Jiajia, I'm your mother. Qin Fan shouted, her well-maintained face contorted with fear at this moment. Stepmother. Duan Jiajia turned her head and said to the police at the door, hello, I want to call the police. I suspect that Qin Fan poisoned me while my father was out and wanted my life. The 2 police officers who followed Wang Qilian did not take it lightly. This is all suspected of poisoning and murder, and the family conflict has not reached this level. Before they came to find Duan Jiajia, they had Wang Qilian take them to see a doctor. Duan Jiajia's situation at the time was indeed very dangerous. The doctor was surprised to wake up so quickly, but advised Wang Qilian to keep Duan Jiajia in the hospital for observation for a period of time before leaving. Coming out from the doctor, the 2 police officers became even more cautious in their originally upright attitude. Qin Fan didn't give those 2 police officers a chance to speak and was about to run away with her bag in hand. Where would the 2 police officers give her this opportunity? Without much effort, he stepped forward to remind Qin Fan, you are now a suspect and must cooperate with our work. We just went to see a doctor, and the doctor carefully told us about the physical condition of Comrade Duan. The situation is quite serious now, and I suggest you stay and cooperate with the investigation. The police had a strong attitude, coupled with her olive green attire. Qin Fan's eyes dodged, but she couldn't say a word, no. Seeing Qin Fan's attitude, what else do the people present not understand? Just now, the old man who helped Qin Fan teach Duan Jiajia a lesson made a scene. He lay down and turned his back to Duan Jiajia. This is my home key. There is also Qin Fan cooking lunch for me on the table, all of which are undercooked food. 1 plate of undercooked food can still be considered an accident, only 3 plates of dishes, 2 plates of undercooked food, and 1 plate of sprouted potatoes. If all of this could be an accident, it would be quite coincidental. Duan Jiajia spoke eloquently and directly told the public security about the situation at home. My father is very good to Qin Fan. If it weren't for almost dying, I wouldn't have thought that Qin Fan would be harmful to me. Duan Jiajia's face was still hard to look at, and with her clothes and dog-like hair, she looked even more pitiful. Wang Qilian beside her also described her appearance when she discovered Duan Jiajia, and casually mentioned Qin Fan's usual attitude towards Duan Jiajia. Normally, Qin Fan can't say how bad she is. In the eyes of many people, it is considered good for a stepmother to be able to avoid physical abuse. However, Duan Jiajia has a bad personality and never imagined the subtle influence of adults on children. Wang Qilian's words were very accurate, without excessively belittling Qin Fan, but also without embellishing Qin Fan's behavior. Your guardian is not available at the moment, and we will find a way to contact your father about this matter and explain it clearly to him. We will also investigate the specific situation in the future. You should take good care of yourself in the hospital first, and we will come to the hospital if you have any progress or questions. The police officer in charge of making the record closed the notebook with a responsible attitude. After Duan Jiajia expressed her gratitude, Wang Qilian was responsible for escorting the police officer who had left for record-keeping to leave. Noticing the curious gazes around, Duan Jiajia slightly raised her hand for the needle and lay back in bed. She is really tired now. From confirming that she was wearing a book to now watching the police take Qin Fan away, Duan Jiejia's tense nerves finally relaxed. Although it is the control group of the protagonist's family does not pose a threat to themselves. On the contrary, Qin Fan, who is driven by greed, is the person worth guarding against the most. As for Qin Fan's adulterous husband, Duan Jiajia doesn't think that man dares to come to the hospital and do anything to himself for Qin Fan's sake. When he receives the news, the first thing he probably does is to set aside his relationship with Qin Fan. After all, when Qin Fan appeared again in the later part of the original book, her situation was not very good at that time, and she was still alone. You don't need a detailed description in the book to guess the ending of Qin Fan being with that adulterer after selling the Duan family's house. The gossip in the ward has nothing to do with her, she just wants to sleep now. I'm too tired. Exhausted all over. Moreover, she also needs to think carefully about what to do next since she is wearing a book. When Duan Jiajia woke up again, it was already the second day. The person who came to take care of her was replaced by Wang Auntie from the street office, and Wang Auntie and Wang Qilian still have a mother-daughter relationship. But there was still a family of 3 standing next to Aunt Wang. The girl closest to Duan Jiajia is a fair-faced girl with slightly round cheeks and a very pleasing appearance. The girl noticed that Duan Jiajia opened her eyes and quickly pulled her mother beside her, saying, "Mom, Duan Jiajia is awake." The few people who were originally talking next to her suddenly looked over, and Aunt Wang stepped forward and whispered, "Wake up. Do you want to drink some water? Are you hungry?" Looking at Duan Jiejia's current appearance, Aunt Wang couldn't help but curse softly, "Qin Fan is really not a good person. She even made your hair look like this. It's already August, and you're starting school next month. How can you go to school like this? I'm afraid it's not necessary to cut a tomboy's head to tidy up these long and short ones." The girl also showed sympathy and said, "I used to envy Duan Jiejia's beautiful hair. It's a pity." Duan Jiajia didn't know what to say for a moment. Fortunately, she is not the original owner. Otherwise, I would probably feel extremely sad upon hearing these words. Fubao. The woman next to her gently tugged at the girl and frowned disapprovingly. This sound directly drew Duan Jiejia's attention away. She had just woken up and her head was still a bit confused. I only realized after reflecting now that the family of 3 standing by my bed is the protagonist's family. At this moment, Fubao's Chinese character face appeared particularly reliable. "I'll go see a doctor," he said. Then he said to Duan Jiajia, "After the police arrived yesterday, we all knew what was going on. I have already contacted Captain Zhang of the transportation team, and he will find a way to contact your father. As for Qin Fan's side, if you decide not to let go, we will also inform the police." Duan Jiajia was still looking at the female protagonist Fubao when she heard Fubao's father's words. She nodded slightly and said, "Well, thank you, Uncle National Day." "It's okay," Fubao's father waved his hand. After all, he and Duan Shunan came from the same place, and the 2 families happened to live opposite each other. In recent years, it has been difficult for Duan Shunan to take care of his children, and he has also noticed it. "I thought Qin Fan was a good person, but to my surprise, she even wanted the life of Duan Jiajia. It sounds scary to me. What if Aunt Qin didn't mean it?" Fubao said coldly beside him. Chapter 4. The Protagonist's Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The people present were speechless for a moment when these words were spoken. Duan Jiajia widened her eyes even more, knowing that the description of the female lead in the original book often mentions kindness. Others often speak of kindness in their evaluations of the female lead. But Duan Jiajia never imagined that the female protagonist Fubao was such a kind person. "Do you have a good relationship with Qin Fan?" asked Duan Jiajia. In normal times, Duan Jiajia's attitude must be displeased by Fubao's father and mother. Fubao is their heartthrob. No one can have a bad attitude towards Fubao. Faced with Duan Jiejia's sickly face and cold gaze, these two adults couldn't say anything for a moment. Qin Fen wants human life. Once the public security finds conclusive evidence, Qin Fen is the murderer. What Jiajia said. Fubao's mother explained with a dry smile as she approached her daughter. Fubao doesn't mean that much either. After all, Qin Fen has taken care of you for so many years, and there is no credit or hard work. The words made Aunt Wang beside her look disapproving. When Qin Fengang and Duan Shunan got married, they did treat Duan Jiajia well. After maintaining it for a year, I don't know what happened, but suddenly my attitude towards Duan Jiajia became bad. Duan Shunan also seemed to have changed his personality, as if he couldn't see it. In their courtyard, not only Fubao, but also children from other families, dressed neatly, Duan Jiajia picked up her father's clothes to wear. Qin Fen was scolded a few times, knowing that she couldn't look too unattractive. She used the excuse that she had never given birth and didn't know how to take care of the children, so she took Duan Jiajia to buy clothes. Duan Jiajia won't get used to Fubao Mama anymore. She was also spoiled by her parents in her previous life, who hasn't had a temper yet. Is that right? Duan Jiajia lay on the bed with a stern face and a somewhat intimidating demeanor. She said, "It's because I'm carrying the living expenses my dad gave me, but I've been working hard all day picking up old clothes from others. Or is it because I've been making a table of poisonous dishes for my hard work?" Duan Jiajia's words not only kicked Qin Fen's face a few times, but also spared Fubao. Fubao's mother was so angry in her heart, but she still had to show a kind expression on her face. Since giving birth to Fubao, she has been doing everything smoothly and has never been so sarcastic before. Ling Buting was ridiculed by a teenager like this, and Fubao's mother felt her face rising and her heat rising. Where is it so serious? Duan Jiajia was too lazy to listen to the mother and daughter, the Virgin Mary, and lazily said, "People are almost dead, it's not too serious." Isn't this not dead yet? Fubao on the side finally realized that he had said the wrong thing. She has never experienced such a thing before. Except for encountering a wicked nanny when she was a child, Fubao had never encountered anyone to harass her since she was just born. Even when encountering bad people, they will relax their guard and feel pity for her. Observing his mother's tense lips, Fubao felt aggrieved and looked at Duan Jiajia with a resentful expression, saying, "My mother and I didn't say anything. My dad even helped you contact the transportation team, otherwise your dad wouldn't have received any news. Is this how you treat us benefactors?" Duan Jiajia is all listening to music. This favor was pulled by them. Without them notifying the transportation team, both the street office and the public security will stop working, right? In the case of a minor who almost died from food poisoning, the suspect is still his stepmother. Even if Fubao's father does not contact him, the public security and Wang's mother will definitely contact Duan Shunan, the guardian, as soon as possible. Uncle Meng's help, I am very grateful. But this is not a condition for me to let go of Qin Fen. Duan Jiajia looked at Fubao and was puzzled. When she was reading, she didn't feel that the female lead was making such a fuss. Duan Jiajia felt that it was still necessary to make it clear, so as not to blame Qin Fen for her lack of credit and hard work one by one. Upon hearing Duan Jiajia's tough tone, Fubao's eyes turned red and he began to shed tears. His aggrieved expression made people unable to bear it. Just now, Wang Auntie, who felt that Fubao's mother was speaking incorrectly, couldn't bear it and began to make amends. Alright, Fubao is young. Even if Qin Fen is not right, she won't show it in front of Fubao. She's not aware of it. Jiajia did suffer a lot this time and almost died. It depends on how the police handle this matter. It's useless for us to say anything, isn't it? Yeah. After seeing Fubao cry, Fubao's father couldn't help but approach Duan Jiajia and say, "Fubao doesn't know what Qin Fen did, and we haven't talked to her about it. She has been innocent since childhood, kind, and can't bear to see people she knows fall into that situation. Jiajia, uncle apologizes to you here. Duan Jiajia originally wanted to explore what was going on with this family. Why is there such a big gap between it and the book? But now when Fubao's father spoke, Duan Jiajia lost interest. It can only be said that one bed cannot sleep with two types of people, and as the daughter of this couple, Fubao cannot have genetic mutations. This opening, openly praising Fubao's innocence and kindness, is it still saying that Duan Jiajia is not pure and kind? Kind-hearted Fubao will worry about Qin Fun, who has an average relationship. Duan Jiajia, who is not kind, is going to send her stepmother to prison. Duan Jiajia was lying in bed, with a small notebook in her heart already drawing circles around this family of three. She probably won't be able to go back, so if she wants to live in the same yard as the Fubao family in the future, she will have to keep a respectful distance from the three of them. Seeing Duan Jiajia not speaking, Fubao's father thought she couldn't say more. His lips curled up discreetly, holding his wife's shoulder with one hand and his daughter with the other. He said to Duan Jiajia, "Jiajia, please rest well. Your aunt and I will come to see you in a few days." After speaking, Fubao's father left with his wife and daughter. As he walked out of the hospital, Fubao's mother angrily held Fubao's hand and shook his father's hand away. No wonder my neighbors around me used to say that Duan Jiejia's child had a strange personality. I even said a few good words for her before, but I didn't expect this child to be so impolite. Our Fubao is kind-hearted, and she even started acting recklessly, relying on herself as a victim. Fubao lowered his head and wiped away his tears beside him, his expression of grievance overflowing. "And you're still polite to her. She's been bullying your wife and daughter, can't you see it?" Fubao's mother became even angrier at the thought. Fubao's father didn't speak to her. He took out a handkerchief from his pocket and painfully wiped his daughter's tears. After comforting her a few words, he walked over to Fubao's mother and lowered his voice, saying, "There have been some job transfers in the factory recently. If nothing unexpected happens, the office director should be me. Can there be any bad negative news now? Please hold back for a while, and when the job transfer is over, I will definitely help you out." Upon hearing these words, Fubao's mother suddenly lost her temper and focused all her attention on promotion. "Really? Is the news accurate?" Fubao, who was walking beside him, frowned and impatiently kicked Shizia in front of him. "How could this be? This shouldn't be." From childhood to adulthood, she never met anyone who had a bad impression of herself. What's going on with Duan Jiajia? Chapter 5. Same. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. What were the plans of that family of three? Duan Jiajia currently has no mood or energy to manage it. In the following days, she rested in a daze in the hospital. Qin Fan targeted Duan Jiajia with all her might, and being able to save her life was Duan Jiajia's lucky move. But she hasn't been idle these days either. After sorting out her original memories and all her understanding of this era, Duan Jiajia suddenly remembered that her original body was going to high school in September. Although originally a child who didn't like to talk and was still very insecure under Qin Fan's constant suppression, his academic performance was very good. I was admitted to the best high school in town, which is still a key class. With the resumption of the college entrance examination, society is paying more and more attention to reading. The best high school enrollment rate in the town can still rank among the top 10 in the city, and it is listed as a key high school in the county. Thinking of this, Duan Jiajia gritted her teeth and cursed Qin Fan a few more words in her heart. "You're really not a good person." The little girl invited her to provoke her. Having 3 dishes in a row is like taking someone's life. After graduating from college in her previous life, Duan Jiajia joined a magazine company and worked as an editor for a period of time. Later, she couldn't stand the editor-in-chief of that magazine company changing his style from left to right. Before the magazine company completely went bankrupt, she ran away first. Based on his previous work experience and hobbies during his college years, Duan Jiajia switched from a part-time author to a full-time author. I haven't sold any major copyrights during my full-time years, but instead I packaged and sold a few minor copyrights. Before I started reading, I lived in a house that I had renovated with a down payment for only 6 months. Lying on the hospital bed, the style of the 1980s and 1990s is in sight, and Duan Jiajia's heart is filled with tears of noodles. She really wants her own little nest. Take it as it comes. A book is definitely something to read. According to one's original age, graduating from university may not be in line with job distribution, but there were also many opportunities in the 1990s. Let her just read every day like this. Duan Jiajia can't sit still. She needs to think carefully about what she needs to do next and what she can do. As for Qin Fen, Duan Jiajia is not worried at all that she will run away. The fact is so clear, the investigation methods of the Public Security Bureau in the 1990s were not weak, and this was not a complex major case. By understanding interpersonal relationships, one can easily find Qin Fen's adulterous husband. Even if the other party is sincere and righteous, they will not reveal Qin Fen's intention to harm others. As long as she, the bitter master, does not let go, Qin Fen is suspected of harming others. Duan Jiajia narrowed her eyes, troubled by the choice of her original father Duan Shunan. After all, she is not yet an adult. If Duan Shunan had feelings for Qin Fen and chose to let her go, it would be a bit troublesome. Duan Jiajia lost his parents at a very young age in his previous life and grew up with his grandparents. However, these two elderly people probably had a strong control over Duan Jiajia due to their loss of children in their later years. I won't talk about anything else from childhood to adulthood, except for her resignation. At home, it feels like a 10-magnitude earthquake, and Duan Jiajia needs to be mentally prepared at least half a month in advance for the Chinese New Year and holidays. The more days of reunion, the more she misses her father. At least, when her father was around, life wasn't like that. With this thought in mind, Duan Jiajia fell asleep again in a daze. When I woke up again, there was a faint voice in my ear. You just have a clear understanding of this matter in your own heart. It's also our fault for urging you to find another one. We shouldn't have urged you. Slowly searching, how could we find someone like Qin Fen? You're a fickle person, so ruthless. Duan Jiajia could tell that it was Aunt Wang's voice. Do you mean to know that Qin Fen has ulterior motives outside? She said that even in the 1990s, China's criminal investigation capabilities were still very strong. While Duan Jiajia was still daydreaming, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice came from the other side of the bed. I also made mistakes. The man's voice was low, but it was obvious that he was in a bad mood. As a husband, I didn't fulfill my responsibilities. It's normal for her to want to find someone else. I just can't accept Qin Fen taking action against Jiajia. When Duan Shunan said these words, his hands were trembling. He couldn't imagine what life would be like if his daughter had an accident. After receiving the news on the way, Duan Shunan and his colleagues took turns working day and night to rush back to the hospital without packing their luggage. Only when Duan Shunan sees Jiajia still in good condition can he rest assured. You're right. Aunt Wang didn't quite agree, only saying, if she really feels like she can't live with you, divorce her. She hasn't gone out to work since she married you. With so many families on our street, besides Fubao Mama, she's the second most nourished. She can't bear to part with money and can't hold back her crooked thoughts. What's the matter with you? Never mind. Duan Shunan looked at his daughter's slimming appearance, his eyes turning red and red. He held Duan Jiajia's hand tightly and said, I will definitely hold her accountable for causing harm to Jiajia. As for that Jia Gui, I'm too lazy to take care of it. Duan Shunan had considered finding a nanny at the beginning, but it was only during that time that the Fubao family in the same hospital did not hire a nanny to take care of the children properly. Fubao's parents only need a nanny to take care of them during the day, and they will go home after work at noon and night. So Fubao suffered a lot of injustice. Duan Shunan dare not imagine what would happen if his daughter ran into a bad nanny after 10.5 days of long-distance travel without returning home. Before getting married, he made it clear to Qin Fen that he remarried purely for the sake of the child and did not consider having another one. At that time, it was very clear that Qin Fen also agreed. Whoever thought, as long as you have a clear idea in your heart, Aunt Wang sighed. Who would have thought that Qin Fen, who usually looks unreliable, would still be such a cruel person? Since Duan Shunan had returned, Aunt Wang stood up and prepared to leave. Before leaving, she told Duan Shunan the doctor's instructions for the past few days and the specific physical condition of Duan Jiajia one by one, which also gave him a clear idea. Duan Jiajia, lying in bed, tightly grasped the hand hidden under the thin quilt. Is she dreaming? Why did you hear my dad's voice? Listening to the footsteps of the two, Duan Jiajia quietly opened her eyes and caught a glimpse of Duan Shuanan's profile. With just one glance, Duan Jiajia couldn't hold her tension anymore. She thought it was just a coincidence before. Her original name was Duan Jiajia, and she had the same name. Her original father also had the same name as her father. But now Duan Shunan looks exactly like her father. Just a little older than her father's appearance in memory. Duan Jiajia sucked her nose and turned her face to prevent anyone from seeing her crying. A thought floated in Duan Jiajia's mind. Is she really just wearing books? Chapter 6. Dad is wrong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Duan Shunan sent Aunt Wang away, and when he came back, he went to the hospital canteen to get a rice porridge and some dishes. Carrying the enamel bowl borrowed from the cafeteria, Duan Shunan carefully placed the bowl on the nearby metal cabinet and looked at Duan Jiajia on the bed, unable to help but sigh. Duan Jiajia, lying in bed, couldn't control himself and quietly opened his eyes. As soon as I opened it, tears couldn't help flowing out. Her gaze could never shift from Duan Shuanan's body. Once upon a time, she looked at her parents' photos and fantasized countless times about what they would look like if they grew old. But now seeing his father who is a few years old, Duan Jiajia felt both grievances and heartache in her heart. Dad! Duan Jiajia whispered. I thought it was difficult for Dad to say this. When she looked worried at the last paragraph, she remembered that she was sick and had a fever when she was a child, and her father was also accompanying her by the bed, even with the same expression. Duan Jiajia couldn't help it anymore. Duan Shunan is an orphan who started self-reliance at the age of 10. He has never experienced any scenes of fierce fighting and bravery before. When I took over my father-in-law's shift, I was also excluded from the transportation team. With his tough and reckless demeanor, he quickly established himself in 2 months and is now the deputy captain of the transportation team. If nothing unexpected happens, he will be the next captain. But now Duan Shunan, who is respected by everyone in this transportation team, couldn't help but cry when he saw his daughter crying like this, sitting by the hospital bed. I'm sorry for you, it's Dad's fault. How could he believe that others can take care of his daughter? When Xiaohui passed away, he promised to take good care of their daughter. But what has he done over the years? Duan Shunan felt like he had been in a daze for the past decade or so. It seems like it's not me. How could he not see Qin Fen's influence and contempt towards Jiajia? If it weren't for his repeated inaction, how could Qin Fen dare to have such thoughts towards Jiajia? Duan Jiajia raised her hand and lightly patted the back of Duan Shuanan's hand, completely surprised that Duan Shunan would cry like this. Noticing that everyone else in the ward had looked over, Duan Jiajia couldn't cry anymore. Dad! Duan Shunan is feeling regretful. Dad! Duan Shunan is blaming himself. Dad! Duan Shunan finally lifted his head. Duan Jiajia couldn't help but laugh at his expression and said, wipe it off. Handing the roll of paper from the nearby cabinet to Duan Shunan, she said, "This has nothing to do with us. Qin Fan's bad behavior is not caused by us, it's her own bad behavior. Why do you feel uncomfortable because someone else did something bad? I'm a bit hungry." While drinking congee, Duan Jiajia asked about Qin Fan's current situation. Duan Shunan did not conceal. There is still suspicion of poisoning, but Qin Fan has never admitted it. The public security has already learned from Qin Fan's friends where mushrooms and sprouted potatoes come from. The card friends who often play with Qin Fan also said that they heard Qin Fan say many bad things about you, and she still owes a sum of money at the mahjong parlor. These are all the messages I received on the way. Just now, Aunt Wang told me that the public security has found out that Qin Fan has recently asked anyone if they want to buy a house. In fact, these clues are already very clear. Qin Fan's harmful intentions also have motives. What Duan Shunan didn't say was that Qin Fan's treacherous husband was very timid. When he was taken to the Public Security Bureau to make a record, he was so scared that he said everything, including Qin Fan's plan to take action against Duan Shunan later. Duan Jiajia took a big mouthful of porridge. The white porridge cooked in the hospital canteen is soft and sticky. With the hospital's own pickled dried turnips, it can bite dried turnips when drinking congee, which spreads a sweet and spicy taste between the lips and teeth. Is she going to be sentenced? Duan Jiajia was more concerned about this. Duan Shunan nodded and said, "We won't let go, she can't run away." Duan Shunan has always regarded Qin Fan as his roommate living under the same roof. He gives money and the other person takes care of Duan Jiajia. Now that such a thing has happened, Duan Shunan mentioned Qin Fan very calmly, as if she was not his legal wife, but an ordinary person. "Hello, rest well, let me handle all these things. Don't worry, your father will definitely not let you feel wronged." Duan Shunan promised, but at the same time, he added some dried radish to Duan Jiajia. "Jiajia, what do you think about Dad's job transfer?" Duan Shunan has always had such thoughts. It's just that the driver earns more, but Duan Shunan still wants to give his daughter a better and more comfortable life, and has never been willing to do so. Now that such a thing has happened, Duan Shunan feels that nothing is more important than his daughter's safety. Transfer. Duan Jiajia held a bowl and was somewhat surprised. She still hasn't figured out whether she's wearing a book or coming from a parallel time and space. A time and space with a father. But both her original memories and her father's memories have a great interest in driving. To put it bluntly, Duan Jiajia felt that in her father's heart, her mother was the first, she was the second, and the car was the third. Now Duan Shunan says he wants to transfer jobs. Seeing his daughter's surprised gaze, Duan Shunan felt even more uncomfortable in his heart. What has he been doing all these years? Duan Shunan said, "Well, as you know, factories have been in a downturn in recent years, and the number of orders that transportation teams can receive has been decreasing. In fact, there aren't so many drivers and cars left, and leaders are urging drivers to switch jobs. If I take the initiative to bring it up, I can still choose a better department." Duan Shunan's words suddenly reminded Duan Jiajia. Not just job transfers, right? Whether it's the plot in the book or Duan Jiajia's understanding of this era. In the 1990s, the wave of layoffs swept across various regions. Factories and units that had successfully transformed did not need to worry, but those that had failed were captured in the open economic wave. A large number of workers were forced to lay off. The protagonist's family in the book chose to go into the sea for business because of this reason. The protagonist Fubao's father, Duan Guoqing, embarked on the business path of a department store tycoon as a result. "Are you willing not to drive?" asked Duan Jiajia. Duan Shunan hesitated for a moment, but quickly shrugged and said nonchalantly, "What's the point of reluctance? It's just driving. I've been driving for so many years and I've grown tired of it." This statement also deceives those who do not understand Duan Shunan. Duan Jiajia could see the struggle on his face. Let's wait for me to be discharged first. This matter is not urgent. With the current situation of our family, the transportation team won't be able to arrange work for you so quickly. Duan Jiajia didn't give Duan Shunan any advice before her own situation was sorted out. The most important thing now is the follow.Up results of Qin Fun. Duan Shunan didn't think too much, just nodded and added some dried radish to Duan Jiajia's bowl. Because the police have inquired about the content from Jia Gui, the transportation team is currently inspecting the vehicles. Duan Shunan just got off the car, and their truck was towed for inspection. If the hidden dangers of the car are not eliminated, the transportation team will not dare to drive again. Chapter 7. Filing for Divorce. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Duan Jiajia stayed directly in the hospital for half a month, and when she was discharged, her dog-like hair didn't look so strange anymore. On the day of discharge, Duan Shunan rode his family's bicycle, with Duan Jiajia's enamel washing and dining utensils hanging in front of him, and Duan Jiajia sitting behind him. The father and daughter went home so slowly and leisurely. During these days spent in the hospital, although Duan Jiajia has not yet fully understood whether she is wearing books or parallel to time and space, she has been able to adapt to her interactions with Duan Shunan. Duan Shunan not only has the same name and appearance as his father in Duan Jiajia's memory, but also has the same working style and eating habits. Duan Jiajia also saw a photo of him and his original mother in Duan Shunan's wallet. The name is different, but the appearance is also the same as Duan Jiajia's mother in her previous life. This discovery made Duan Jiajia feel slightly happy, but at the same time, it added a touch of disappointment. She thought that the world in this book might be another parallel spacetime. Moreover, based on the comparison between her original memory and the time she spent together in the past few days, Duan Jiajia found that there was a significant difference between Duan Shunan in her original memory and the time she spent with her. Even when Duan Shunan mentioned his past, his face was dazed and he couldn't figure out why his years were so absurd. Duan Jiajia speculates that this is probably the power of the plot. The plot requires the father and daughter of the Duan family to serve as the control group for the Fubao family. So Duan Shunan is a person who loves his wife and daughter, and has a slightly fierce personality. Suddenly becoming lonely and depressed, as if indifferent to everything around him. Realizing this, Duan Jiajia had a bad impression of the Fubao family, and now it's even worse. Go to his control group. Whoever likes to be in this control group is not willing to be. On the way, Duan Shunan hesitated several times and still told Duan Jiajia what he had done. After spending these days together, Duan Shunan became increasingly regretful. In the time he overlooked, his daughter had grown from the crying child in swaddling clothes to a big girl with a plan in her heart and a mind. I have filed for divorce. Upon hearing this, Duan Jiajia was not surprised. Duan Shunan continued, I will handle this matter well. You just need to rest well at home from now on. It's already mid-August, and school will start in half a month. Take care of yourself before going to school. Duan Jiajia nodded in agreement. Speaking, the father and daughter are almost home. They live in a low location, and need to take a stone step at a 50-degree angle to the ground from the main road outside. There is also a narrow slope in the middle of the stone step that looks newer, which is obviously convenient for pushing bicycles up and down. Half a meter below the stone steps is the gate of the courtyard. Along the way, there are 7 or 8 households in these large courtyards, and there are no problems with daily life. During the flood season, it is necessary to dig drainage ditches in front of the gate in advance to prevent rainwater from flowing back into the courtyard. The old man once said that this area used to be a complete set of large mansions, belonging to a landlord before the founding of the People's Republic of China. The landlord's family has been passed down for several generations, and generation after generation, they have been building outside. Later in the war, the landlord sold his family's land and house, not even his ancestral tomb, and took his family abroad to avoid the chaos. Later on, the houses here turned back and forth a few times, and even split and sold in the middle, gradually losing their original appearance. Nowadays, the gates of the courtyard are all built separately. In the past, this place leaned against the slope and had no entrance or exit. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, the house was divided into a large area next to it for the construction of factories, including a machinery factory, a light bulb factory, a food factory, and a forest farm that has always been present in the local area, ultimately collectively known as the Southern Suburb Forest Farm. Considering that there is a forest farm and 3 factories here, the government also allocated hospitals, centralized transportation teams, and some living facilities during the planning process. This large courtyard is not divided into front and back courtyards. There is a corridor in the middle that is about 3 meters long and 2 meters wide, with 1 household on each side. The eaves at the entrance are covered with honeycomb coal, which is covered with wooden boards or woven bags from several factories to prevent dampness. There are small bamboo chairs at the door, and 1 or 2 large flower pots and separated chemical plastic buckets next to them, filled with soil and planted with small things like scallions and garlic. There is a rope hanging under the window next to it, which is used to dry clothes. Although the relationship between men and women is still very conservative these days, underwear and other things can be easily hung outside. The father and daughter returned just after dinner, and the people in the yard sat outside in the shade to cool off. Duan Jiajia followed behind Duan Shunan, and the neighbors in the yard saw that both the father and daughter of the Duan family were greeting and asked about Duan Jiajia's current physical condition with concern. The appearance of the police coming over that day was too frightening. Especially after learning about what Qin Fen had done, the people in the courtyard felt a wave of fear. Qin Fen had his bad thoughts on Duan Jiajia. What if she had her bad thoughts on them one day? Can they have the good luck of Duan Jiajia, who crawled out and was immediately discovered by Wang Qiulian and sent to the hospital? No one can guarantee it. Therefore, later on, the public security came to take notes, and they used to feel that Qin Fen had some emotions towards these neighbors who were acceptable to Duan Jiajia Ming. They didn't add any embellishments, just things they used to think were okay. Now they all feel like there are problems. In this way, Qin Fen was portrayed as a lazy and domineering person who, despite receiving a lot of living expenses from Duan Shunan, always treated Duan Jiajia harshly. Jiajia's face is so thin. What a sin. I never saw Qin Fen being so bad before. Don't worry, Lao Duan. We have already told the police about the matter. Yes. If you need any help, just give me a command. After all, they are neighbors who have lived together for over a decade, and everyone has shown goodwill towards the Duan family's father and daughter. This large courtyard houses 5 households, 2 on each side, and the smallest one facing the front door. The Duan family is located in the second household on the left. Duan Shunan placed his bicycle against the wall in the adjacent building, with 2 small bamboo chairs placed against the wall. The Duan family has the largest area, and the house was bought by Duan Jiajia's grandfather when he was young. It is also the only household in the courtyard. The other 4, including the Fubao family, are all allocated houses by the factory and have to pay a monthly rent of 1 yuan to the factory. This 1 yuan is just a formality on the surface, and housing is included in employee benefits. The collected piece will be distributed along with employee benefits after going through the same procedures. It is also because in earlier years, the economic benefits of this southern suburban forest farm have always been good. The factory has money, but of course, it is also willing to provide employee benefits. This model has been implemented for over 20 years. Duan Jiajia remembers writing in the original book that in the next 2 years, the factory's efficiency will soon be unable to maintain daily expenses. After this benefit was revoked, the rent provided to employees has been increased to a certain extent according to their length of service. It is also because of this incident that the Fubao family has accelerated their pace of doing business overseas. This large courtyard clearly has no added value, even if it is waiting for demolition, it is still enough to wait. Under the protagonist's halo, the Fubao family sold their house and moved into a building in the town. The treasure dug out from their original home has also become the first bucket of gold for the Fubao family to start a business overseas. The father and daughter locked the car and were about to enter when the sound of the screen window creaking and pushing open came from behind. The Fubao family stood at their doorstep, seemingly about to leave. After a few days of seeing Duan Jiajia again, Fubao's face still showed a look of dissatisfaction that was difficult to control. Chapter 8 is a comparison. You are listening at novel full.audio. Go out. Duan Shunan greeted the family. When he was in the hospital, he heard from Aunt Wang that this family of 3 had a conflict with Duan Jiajia before. Although Aunt Wang has beautified a lot, Duan Shunan still heard some tricks. However, relying on his absence and using the excuse that Fubao was young, Jiajia was left dumbfounded. Duan Jiajia didn't mention this matter, simply because he didn't like the cautious appearance of the holy mother of the Fubao family. Plus, her later thoughts were all focused on whether she was going through books or parallel to time and space, so she had already forgotten what happened that day. But Duan Shunan doesn't think so. He believes that his daughter has been wronged, and the reason why he doesn't say it is because of his previous attitude, which made his daughter afraid to rely on him as a father. Amidst the collision of two emotions, Duan Shunan blamed himself while feeling dissatisfied with the Fubao family. Fubao's father didn't expect such a coincidence. They went out together and happened to see Duan's father and daughter returning. Looking at Duan Shunan in front of him, Fubao's father felt great satisfaction in his heart. When he was in Hongshan village, also known as Hongshan Brigade, Duan Shunan often compared himself to him because of his beauty. Fubao's father has always felt that this kind of comparison is insulting him. His father is the captain, but Duan Shunan is an abandoned baby. He has been favored since childhood, and his older brothers are not as respectable as him in front of his father. They always give him a bite of anything good at home. Duan Shunan was adopted by an old bachelor, who died in his early teens. From then on, he will always be like a wild child, either entering the mountains or going down the river. He graduated from high school all the way and was one of the few high school graduates in the team at that time. Duan Shunan only learned a few words from an old bachelor and even mixed up with a second-rate person, without any knowledge or skills. Afterwards, their gap became even larger. But Fubao's father never expected that after graduating from college, he would share a house in his workplace and happily move to the town with his wife and daughter. However, his neighbor, Duan Shunan, whom he had never looked up to, was his neighbor. At that time, Duan Shunan was already thriving in the transportation team. Fubao's father has always been proud of his beautiful and cultured educated youth wife, and it seems that he hasn't won much compared to Duan Shunan's wife Xuehui. At that time, the sense of shame and urgency to be caught up with left Fubao's father frustrated for a long time. It wasn't until Xuehui died of difficult childbirth and Duan Shunan's will sank that this feeling slowly subsided. Now looking at the Duan family being poisoned and divorced, Duan Jiajia has been tormented to a pale and emaciated complexion, with messy hair that looks like a tomboy. Fubao's father looked at his beloved wife and daughter next to him again, and felt that it was not even hot in the summer, as if he had taken a few sips of ice soda, which was comfortable. Duan Jiajia's emotions were sharp, and she noticed a flash of joy in Fubao's father's eyes. She immediately frowned. Fubao's father was about to say a few words of comfort, but Duan Shunan across from him saw his thoughts at a glance and said directly, "We're going in first. There hasn't been anyone at home for several days, it's all dust. It'll take time to tidy up. You guys take your time." When he said this, Fubao's father could only nod, and it was not easy to chase him to the doorstep of each family. Before leaving, he pretended to say, "We are all neighbors." If you need any help, just let us know. Duan Shunan nodded, not even looking, and directly led his daughter into the house. The room is not as dirty and messy as Duan Shunan said. In her original memory, Duan Shunan is actually a bit clean, just like her father in her memory. The Duan family has a 2-bedroom, 1 living room, and the entire house is rectangular, consisting of a living room, 2 bedrooms, a toilet and a kitchen. From the living room to the kitchen, you have to walk a long corridor. Only by opening the bedroom door can the corridor be brighter, otherwise it will be a dark place. The kitchen at the back is very large, so the dining table is also placed there. The kitchen has opened a back door, which is connected to the next door. There is only a 2-meter wide hallway below, and there is a water channel where kitchen drainage and laundry are carried out. Jiajia, you go to your room to rest first, and I'll go to the market outside to buy groceries. Duan Shunan quickly packed the luggage he brought back, soaked the clothes that needed to be washed in a basin, and placed the enamel jar in the kitchen cabinet. Duan Jiajia responded and walked to the door of the second bedroom. It's strange to say. The original and her characters are quite different, but their living habits are exactly the same. There doesn't seem to be any special bedroom in front of me, each one is particularly pleasing to Duan Jiajia's heart. Even the 2 cassette tapes on the table were singers that Duan Jiajia used to enjoy listening to. However, in her time, this singer's songs were all called old songs, and now they are still popular. Duan Jiajia sat at the table, with a small bedroom and a single bed next to it placed against the wall. The desk was against the bed, and the window was in front of the table. On the table were the original textbooks and magazines, as well as a novel wrapped in a cover. The wardrobe is placed at the end of the bed, and there is also a celebrity poster posted on the wall. Duan Jiajia touched the novel and it turned out to be a martial arts novel. It is not the name Jin Gu Liang Huang that Duan Jiajia knows, but a name he has never seen before. After reading a few pages, Duan Jiajia was really fascinated. Get up naturally from the chair, turn around, and lie down on the bed. This series of actions, Duan Jiajia's eyes have not even moved away from the novel, as if she has done them millions of times. I don't know how long it took to read a novel, but I fell asleep in a daze. In her dream, Duan Jiajia felt like she was being packed in some container. As she watched her original self grow from birth to adulthood, although she had lived with Duan Shunan for 2 years today and tomorrow, Duan Jiajia could clearly feel that her original self was happy at that time. I am even happier when I see Duan Shunan. But suddenly one day, the original body seemed to be controlled by some force, and the originally innocent and lively child became silent and reserved. A few days later, someone began to persuade Duan Shunan to find another one, the reason being that children without mothers are no wonder they don't like to talk. Duan Jiajia watched as Duan Shunan struggled, her eyes filled with resistance dramas in the end, but when she spoke, she agreed. After that, Duan Jiajia not only saw Duan Shunan becoming increasingly silent, but also felt the gradually sinking emotions of his original body. They are like string puppets, with no thoughts of their own. They only speak when they meet the Fubao family, and remain silent at other times. As a child, he is not very talkative and doesn't attract much attention. But Duan Shunan is different. He used to have a high reputation in the transportation team and should have been the captain of the transportation team long ago without any accidents. However, due to sudden desolation and lack of ambition, he just wasted his time like this. Fortunately, driving and repairing cars is also a technical job. Duan Shunan is no longer fighting as hard as before, and his mind can only immerse himself in driving and repairing cars. Duan Jiajia kept watching and saw that his original body had died from food poisoning at home. Qin Fan took advantage of no one's attention and came back to handle all the food, then left, and then returned to disguise himself as having died unexpectedly. Duan Shunan keenly noticed something was wrong several times, but was all fooled by Qin Fan's clumsy lies. It's not like Duan Shunan believed it himself, but rather a force that forced him to believe. Duan Jiajia had been watching Duan Shunan get into a car accident. When the truck rolled down the cliff, it started to catch fire. Although Duan Shunan could escape, his limbs were uncontrollable and he sat in the car and was burned to death. Chapter 9. Returning to Old Business. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Duan Jiajia woke up from her dream with a scream as she watched her familiar face gradually engulfed in the flames. Duan Shunan, who came back with vegetables, pushed open the door and thought about chopping a minced meat to steam an egg and meat pie soup for his daughter, and then stir-frying a refreshing vegetable. I dare not make anything too greasy, so I can only add steamed fish to the meat and vegetables. Thinking that he could only pick and choose light and healthy ingredients in the market just now, Duan Shuanan's dissatisfaction with Qinfen added a few layers to his heart. If it weren't for Qinfen's ruthlessness, how could Duan Jiajia have repeatedly avoided eating something? The key was placed on the low cabinet at the door, and Duan Shunan heard Duan Jiajia's shout coming from inside. He was so scared that he even lost the vegetables in his hand and rushed to the door of Duan Jiajia's house with a few steps. Inside, Duan Jiajia sat on the bed, sweating profusely, with a look of terror in her eyes. Jiajia. Duan Shuanan's voice drifted, afraid that a louder voice would startle Duan Jiajia. Didn't the old man say that? Children should not shout when they are frightened, as shouting can easily drain their souls. Duan Jiajia looked at Duan Shunan in front of her, panting heavily and feeling lingering palpitations. She swallowed and shook her head, saying, "It's okay, I had a nightmare." Duan Shunan breathed a slight sigh of relief and comforted her. Dreams are all opposite. After all, he missed more than 10 years of spending time with his daughter. Now that her daughter is 14 years old, she is a big girl, and as a father, he also needs to have some discretion. After repeatedly confirming that Duan Jiajia was okay, his eyes were still full of worry and he said, "Dad bought the steamed fish you like to eat. Let's eat the fish later. You can lie down and rest for a while, don't fall asleep again." Duan Jiajia nodded and said, I understand." After confirming that she was fine, Duan Shunan returned to the living room and carried things to the kitchen. As he passed by, he also glanced at the door and saw Duan Jiajia lying down facing the wall. Duan Shunan felt a little relieved and reached out to help Duan Jiajia close the door. The passage was instantly half dark. Lying in bed, Duan Jiajia covered her pounding heart. At this moment, what else did she not understand? Both the food poisoning of the original body and the death of Duan Shunan are simply because they are the control group of the protagonist's family. Under the influence of the plot, Duan Shunan, who was originally proactive and ambitious, became depressed, even neglecting his daughter. Qinfen's flawed strategies resulted in the deaths of Yuan Shen and Duan Shunan one after another, only due to the protection of the plot. Why? Is it because the Fubao family is the protagonist that the original person deserves to die? Do Duan Shunan deserve to die? One died alone and in pain at home due to Qinfen's clumsy murder. Due to the power of the plot, one can only watch themselves burn to death in the fire despite being able to escape. Duan Jiajia clenched her fist and angrily knocked on the bed. Go to his control group. Whoever loves to be the one who goes, she absolutely shouldn't be such a protagonist's control group. Under the brief contact in the hospital, Duan Jiajia could see that the Fubao family was not as good as they were written in the book. The good fortune of Fubao is largely due to the miserable and unbearable comparison of the control group. The worse the control group is, the better the Fubao. Duan Jiajia pouted and quickly perked up. She has now become her original self, and her father is so similar to her father. Duan Jiajia definitely shouldn't follow the plot. Judging from the current situation, Duan Shunan has also overcome the influence of the plot. Since that's the case, then let's get rid of the plot together. Thinking of this, Duan Jiajia stood up and sat on the bed. Her father's job definitely needs to be changed. The transportation team is now relying on fragmented orders to sustain themselves, and the reason why everyone has not left is also because the transportation team can earn some extra money by relying on public cars. Drivers were still a popular profession in the 1990s, but not as glamorous as in earlier years. The Fubao family will go overseas for business in the next 2 years and quickly accumulate funds and expand their scale by relying on the power of the plot. Even without the treasures under the Duan family's house, Duan Jiajia speculates that with the remaining plot power and the protagonist's aura, they can still find other ways to obtain their first bucket of gold. The female protagonist has a protagonist halo. She knows the plot and the development of the times, so she doesn't believe that she can't rely on her own efforts to win the protagonist halo. Thinking of this, Duan Jiajia sat at the desk, flipped through a stack of letters from the drawer, and then flipped through the magazine she had bought before. She's going back to her old job. Write a novel. At the end, Duan Jiajia didn't write a single word. Instead, while flipping through magazines, she came across a suspense novel with a sharp pen but not a good position in one of them, and then became fascinated by it. It wasn't until Duan Shunan called her to eat that she regained consciousness. However, even so, Duan Jiajia has gained a rough understanding of the current novel market. The magazine she is reading focuses on romance novels, and the reason why she was able to choose the suspense story is probably because there are also a lot of emotional connections in it. With social changes and a gradually open culture, the peak of scar literature and serious literature in the 1980s remained popular in the 1990s, but other types of novels also entered the mainland market. Typical examples include the martial arts novels of Jin Gu Yang Huan, and the romance novels of Ant Xiong. These works gradually entered the mainland market, quickly occupying the youth group, and then developed. The most important thing is that Duan Jiajia remembers that the manuscript fees were not low in this era. Until the late 1990s, there will be a huge climb. The rumor that the fairy tale king used royalties to buy a house to store reader letters is also supporting evidence. Let Duan Jiajia write serious literature, she definitely doesn't have that ability. Duan Jiajia has a very clear positioning of herself, and she is not a well-known author in the real world. She only has a small reputation in the website and author circle. It's not difficult to write such a groundbreaking work, but it shouldn't be difficult to make a living, right? Shouldn't it be? Duan Jiajia walked to the kitchen at the back, where steamed meat patties, soup, steamed fish, and a plate of emerald green vegetable stems were already placed on the small rice table in all directions. Considering the taste issue, 1 or 2 chopped millet peppers can still be seen in the vegetable stem. Dad, it's better not to put any more chili peppers in your mouth. Duan Jiajia couldn't help complaining. I'm actually much better now. I eat less water every day, and my mouth doesn't taste at all. Duan Shunan grew up on his own and cooking is a necessary skill. Coincidentally, Duan Jiajia's mother Xue Hui is an only child who has been spoiled by her parents since childhood. Not to mention stir-frying, even cooking requires measuring with the palm of her hand to control the amount of water. Among her peers at this age, Xue Huina is simply an alien existence. After getting married, Duan Shunan and Grandma Xue took care of the cooking at home. Over time, Grandma Xue passed on her excellent cooking skills to Duan Shunan. Cheng. Duan Shunan himself was actually tired of it. Local people like to eat spicy food and cook with red sauce and thick oil, with a strong flavor. Having the Duan family and his daughter eat light flavors for half a month, and occasionally having some dried radish to enrich themselves, is already their limit of patience. The father and daughter were discussing what to eat tomorrow, from braised pork ribs to chili fried meat. While Duan Jiajia was arguing for his own food for tomorrow, suddenly a loud shout came from the front. Duan Shunan, come out. Duan, come out. Why do you propose a divorce? Why? The person not only shouted, but also slammed the door wrapped in iron with force, and the sound of the iron clattered. Scared, all the fish and meat caught by Duan Jiajia fell onto the table. Chapter 10. Not a man. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Dad. Is this the Qin family? Duan Jiajia has also met the Qin family. After all, Qin Fen has a married relationship with Duan Shunan, and it is impossible for the Duan family not to have dealings with the Qin family. Duan Shunan put down the dishes, looked displeased, got up and walked to the front, still reminding Duan Jiajia, "You stay at home and don't go out." Outside, the old woman with a towel wrapped around her head was so angry that her chest was heaving and she stared fiercely at the door of the Duan family. Unable to get angry, he still supported his eldest daughter.In.Law and stepped forward to kick her a few times. Several footprints with yellow mud appeared on the clean iron door of the Duan family. "My surname is Duan, get out of here. My daughter works as a cow and a horse for your family, and you want your drag bottle to send my daughter to prison and divorce her. Are you human? Get out of here." Qin's mother shouted loudly, crying as she spoke. The neighbors who were watching the commotion all had strange expressions on their faces. If they hadn't known the cause and effect, they would have believed the old lady's words. Seeing that the Duan family had not yet come out, the neighbor who lived together in a large courtyard stood up. "What did you say, old lady? Qin Fen doesn't know how nourishing her life is, and she still acts like a cow or a horse. I don't believe that you, your mother and family, have never been exposed to someone else's small privileges. Besides, Qin Fen is just a poisonous woman who almost killed Jiajia. Do you still have reason?" "No way. How many years have we lived here? We've never heard of poisoning our children by cooking. This is Qin Fen targeting Jiajia. Who knows if she will also poison our food if she looks down on us someday." Qin Fen's popularity in the courtyard used to be average. The news of Duan Jiajia's food poisoning came out, and people from the Public Security Bureau came to investigate. These two incidents alone have caused dissatisfaction among the surrounding neighbors. They are all obedient and good families. Who would be willing to deal with the Public Security Bureau if they are good and upright? Qin's mother's crying and howling immediately got stuck in her throat, as she watched a group of people gathered at the entrance of the courtyard to watch the excitement, her face not looking very good for a moment. Qin's mother cursed inwardly, "This dead girl doesn't have to be secretive in her work. Now that so many people know, how can she still deduct money from Duan Shuanan's hands?" She never thought about helping Qin Fen salvage this marriage. Qin Fen is about to go to jail, so the annual filial piety is definitely gone. Can't she come to ask Duan Shunan for money while Qin Fen and Duan Shunan are still divorced? Qin's mother quickly changed her expression and sat on the ground, patting her thighs and crying, "That's not because the Duan family is not good. If it weren't for Duan Shuanan's bad behavior, my daughter would do this. It's all because the Duan family is forcing her. Is that right?" Duan Shunan pushed open the door and heard this, sneering, "Then tell me, what did I force Qin Fen to do? I only have such a daughter, can I still force Qin Fen to kill her?" Qin's mother was not afraid either. She choked her neck, her eyes flashing with malice, and threatened, "You know how you are. If you're not afraid of losing face, I'll just say it in front of so many people. Do you really think she doesn't know anything? Qin Fen, that idiot, has already told her. This paragraph looks straight, but it's actually a silver-like pewter spear head. He can't do it." Although a neighbor in the yard also wants to watch the excitement, the events that have happened in the Duan family these days, as well as the frail appearance of Duan Jiajia when she returned, make it difficult for everyone to watch Qin's mother threaten the Duan family for so many years. The courtyard was quite prestigious, and Huang, who lived on the left side of the main entrance, walked over with his back in hand, followed by his sturdy son. "Xiao Duan, take this elder sister inside and say. If there's really something personal, you can talk privately. If there's anything wrong, just shout out and we'll all sit outside." Old Huang glanced at the few people who followed Qin's mother and showed his attitude, "I have a good relationship with your father.In.Law and mother.In.Law in front of you. We also watch Jiajia and Shall We Grow Up and Won't See Anyone Outside Bully You. When Duan Shunan and Shuehui first got married, they handled their relationship very well in the courtyard. Shuehui's parents also praised Duan Shunan as their son.In.Law. Therefore, the elderly in the courtyard have a very good impression of Duan Shunan. Even though influenced by the plot, Duan Shunan became silent after marrying Qin Fun, while Huang and others only believed that Duan Shunan's actions were due to the death of Shuehui. Now come back to life, and the people in the courtyard are not surprised either. If you don't pull yourself together, your daughter will be gone. Thank you, Uncle Huang. Duan Shu thanked Mr. Huang in a soft and grateful tone. Old Huang just waved his hand, but his expression was clearly very satisfied with Duan Shunan's attitude. No one wants a hot face to touch a cold buttocks. Duan Shunan knows his own good, and it's not in vain for him to come out with his son to support their father and daughter. With Huang's statement, another household in the courtyard also nodded in agreement. Let's go. Duan Shunan didn't even look at Qin's mother and turned around to enter the house. Qin's mother gritted her teeth in hatred when she saw Duan Shunan ignoring her so much, and asked her daughter.In.Law and eldest son to help her up. Boss, wife, you all follow me in. I don't believe it. Qin's mother took off the towel from her head, snored a bunch of messy hair, and stormed into the Duan family. She definitely won't care about Qin Fan's daughter, but before Qin Fan and Duan Shunan divorce, she must make a profit. After entering the Duan family, looking at their neat appearance, Qin's mother's eyes were filled with an uncontrollable expression of greed and jealousy. After Qin Fan married Duan Shunan, she didn't come to the Duan family much. To be precise, Qin Fan is not very willing for her to come over. If there is anything, Qin Fan will go back to her mother's house and give money like this. She shouldn't have listened to that dead girl in the beginning. She should have come to stay at the Duan family even if she was rolling around. I said son.In.Law, you're going to divorce my daughter as soon as she's in trouble, isn't it too heartless? Qin's mother sat on the single sofa. This sofa was bought by Grandpa Shui when Duan Shunan and Shuehui got married. Over the years, although the sponge has not become soft, the sofa leather has been well protected, only slightly worn at the corners. Qin's mother touched the armrest of the sofa back and forth, already pondering how much money she wanted to get from Duan Shunan. Upon hearing Qin's mother's words, Duan Shunan sneered and said, "Why was Qin Fan arrested? You don't know. Why did I get divorced? You don't know. Where did you come from asking me for money?" A criminal who was arrested for trying to kill his daughter, even his legal wife, will be pursued to the end by Duan Shunan. He has never apologized to Qin Fan, and Qin Fan is the one who apologized to him. Qin's mother was also angry when she heard this, but unfortunately, Li was not on her side. So he looked left and right, gritting his teeth and staring at Duan Shunan with his triangular eyes, as if spitting out a poisonous tongue. He said, "Don't think I don't know. If you don't give me money, I'll tell you that you're a useless man. A man who can't stand it, even if he leaves my daughter. I'll see what you're going to do next." Qin's mother doesn't believe it. A man in his early 40s can still stay away for the rest of his life without a woman warming him up.